At Thanksgiving, my niece dumped mashed potatoes on my lap. "Clean it up yourself," she said, while my brother laughed. I stayed silent. That night, Mom texted, "We're done with you. Don't contact us again." I replied, "Fine. I'm removing my name from every loan, too." Minutes later, the family group chat exploded. "All right, let me tell you something. My brother thought it was hilarious when his daughter humiliated me at dinner. Well, that was the last time they laughed at my expense. I gave them a reality check they'll never forget. Grab your coffee and settle in. Name's Stephanie, 35 years old, and I'm a commercial electrician in Houston. Let me paint the picture for you. I'm sitting in my truck outside a Home Depot on a Thursday night, just finished an emergency call. Some woman's entire electrical panel had shorted out and started smoking. Spent 5 hours rewiring her garage and replacing breakers. The call came in around 6:45, right when I'd finally sat down with Thai food from that place near my apartment. I took 3 bites before my phone rang. The woman was hysterical. Sparks shooting from the wall. Her husband was yelling something about fire extinguishers in the background. I showed up 20 minutes later. The garage smelled like burning plastic. The panel box was blackened, wires exposed and melted. Happens with older homes in humid climates. Houston heat does a number on electrical systems. I killed the main breaker first. Always the first move. Then started assessing the damage. Got the panel door off, disconnected the damaged circuits, hauled the old box down while the husband stood there wringing his hands and asking how much this would cost every 5 minutes. The new panel took 3 hours to install. Running new circuits took another 2 because the old aluminum wiring was corroded and needed replacing. While I worked, I could hear them arguing upstairs about money. The sound carried through the air vents. Finished at 11:30. The guy paid me in cash, full amount plus a decent tip. Said his wife would have killed him if I hadn't come out tonight. Then my phone buzzed. Mom's text hit like a slap across the face. "We've decided to cut ties with you. Don't contact us again." No explanation. No warning. Just a clean severing delivered via text message at almost midnight. I stared at it under the fluorescent lights of the Home Depot parking lot. Read it 4 times. Cut ties. Like I was some toxic waste they needed to dispose of. Another text popped up. My brother Derek hearted the message. A little thumbs up emoji next to "Don't contact us again." Real mature. Classic Derek. Here's the thing. 7 hours earlier, I'd been at Thanksgiving dinner at Mom's house in Pearland. Derek's daughter, Brianna, who just turned 6, grabbed my plate while I was helping Mom carry dishes from the kitchen. The plate with turkey, stuffing, cranberry sauce, green bean casserole, the whole spread. That kid looked directly at me, smiled this mean little smile, and flipped the entire thing onto my lap. Then she laughed. "Oops. Guess you'll have to clean it up yourself." Derek laughed, a genuine, amused laugh, while I grabbed paper towels and started cleaning. "Kids, man. What are you gonna do?" he said, still grinning like it was the funniest thing he'd ever seen. I didn't respond. Something inside me shifted right then. Something that had been bending for years finally snapped clean through. Now I'm looking at my phone, at Mom's text, and I realize I've been keeping records for almost 3 years. Not because I planned for this exact moment, just because I'm the kind of person who keeps receipts. Work orders, invoices, payment confirmations, bank statements. I apply the same logic to everything in my life. If it's worth doing, it's worth documenting. And I'd been documenting Derek's financial disasters for 34 months. Every co-signed loan. Every joint credit card. Every desperate 2 a.m. text asking for money to cover rent. Every promise to pay me back that disappeared like morning fog over Buffalo Bayou. I kept it all in a folder on my phone, backed up to 3 different cloud services, organized by date and category. I called it my insurance policy. Tonight, I needed to file a claim. I typed back, "Fine with me. By the way, I'm removing my name from every loan. You have 48 hours to figure it out." Sent it. Set my phone face down on the passenger seat. Didn't check it when it started buzzing non-stop, just watched the screen light up over and over while I drove back to my apartment in Montrose. What they didn't know was that removing my name was just step 1. I'd spent countless late nights after emergency calls researching co-signer laws in Texas, credit disputes, and how to legally extract yourself from someone else's financial disaster. I knew exactly what would happen when my name disappeared from those accounts. I knew about the Dodge Durango lease Derek couldn't afford. The business credit card he'd maxed out for his startup. The loan for equipment he'd never actually purchased. The previous landlord who'd taken him to small claims court 2 years ago. I knew things Derek thought were buried. And I was about to dig them all up at once. People always want the ending first, the explosion, the fallout. But here's the thing about watching someone implode: you don't push them over. You just stop holding them up and let gravity do its job. So this is how a plate of mashed potatoes became the final straw. How a family that called me their safety net learned what happens when the net walks away. But first, let me give you some background. I got into electrical work at 23, right after dropping out of community college. Started as an apprentice with a commercial firm, worked my way up, got my journeyman license, then my master electrician certification. Now I run my own small operation. The work's steady. Good money. In Houston, there's always something breaking, always someone who needs help. In my family, I'm the reliable one. The fixer, and I don't just mean electrical systems. I mean the person who shows up when someone needs help. The person who co-signs loans and makes emergency bank transfers at 3 a.m. and never complains about it. Never asks for anything in return. My younger brother Derek is 31, and is everything I'm not. Flashy. Charismatic. Treats responsibility like it's a suggestion rather than an obligation. He's the type who posts motivational quotes about grinding and hustling on Instagram while texting me for gas money at midnight. You know the type. Mom calls him ambitious. Dad calls him a go-getter. I call him a financial black hole with excellent PR skills. But I started noticing patterns over the years. How Derek always had a crisis that needed immediate cash. How his business ventures always needed just one more investment to really take off. How his Instagram showed bottle service at clubs on Washington Avenue and new sneakers every month, but he'd text me begging for grocery money the same week. The pattern started small, a borrowed 20 here, a missed lunch bill there. Things you write off because family's supposed to help each other, right? But borrowed 20s became borrowed hundreds. Missed lunch bills became unpaid rent. Emergency phone calls at 2 a.m. because his electricity was about to get shut off. I remember the first time I realized something was seriously wrong. Derek was 26, called me crying about his water bill. Said the city was going to shut off his water in 3 days. He needed $240. I sent it immediately via Zelle because that's what you do for family. A week later, I saw photos on his Instagram. New outfit, designer hoodie, expensive jeans. Dinner at this trendy restaurant in the Heights with friends. Tagged at some rooftop bar with bottle service in the background. I did the math in my head. That outfit cost more than the water bill I'd just paid. Probably twice as much. I didn't say anything. Just started paying closer attention. Next month, another emergency. Car insurance lapsed. Needed $320 to reinstate it or he'd lose his license and his job. I sent the money. Then watched him post about a weekend trip to Austin with his girlfriend. Hotels aren't free. Concert tickets aren't free. Third month, he needed help with Brianna's daycare deposit. $450. Critical, he said. She'd lose her spot otherwise. I sent it the same day. That weekend, he posted unboxing videos of packages from some streetwear website. Shoes, clothes, a new gaming headset. The gap between his words and his actions grew wider every month. I started documenting everything. Dates, amounts, screenshots of texts where he'd promised to pay me back by Friday, and Friday would come and go with no mention of it. Then I started saving his social media posts, the ones where he talked about his empire and his vision while owing me over $7,000. Bank statements went into the folder. Every joint account showing my deposits and his withdrawals. Every credit card statement showing charges at places I'd never heard of for things I'd never approved. I wasn't planning anything specific at the time. Just documenting reality. Creating a record of what was actually happening versus what everyone pretended was happening. Here's how it worked in my family. When something needed doing, I did it. Derek showed up late with an excuse and a Starbucks cup, and everyone smiled and said, "Oh, Derek." I carried the weight. Nobody acknowledged it, but everyone knew. And while I carried that weight, I collected receipts. The first major debt was Derek's truck. He was 25, needed reliable transportation. His credit looked like a crime scene, Late payments, collections, charge-offs. No down payment. Terrible financing terms. The dealership said he needed a cosigner with good credit. Mom called me while I was up on a ladder installing industrial lighting at a warehouse in Pasadena. Sweat dripping down my face. Screwdriver in hand. Just sign the papers, she said. He promised he'll make the payments. He's really trying this time, Stephanie. I was exhausted. Dehydrated. Annoyed. I signed the paperwork on my phone during my lunch break, sitting in my truck with the AC blasting. Derek missed the third payment. The bank called me at 7 a.m. on a Tuesday. I paid it, took a screenshot of the confirmation, added it to my folder. Then it was a business credit card. Just for startup costs, he said. I'll be responsible. I'm building something real this time. He wasn't. Every late fee, every overlimit charge, all of it went into my folder. Every text where he said he'd handle it went into my folder. He'd message me at random times. Wednesday afternoon. Hey, can you spot me $200? I'll get you back on Friday. Friday would come and go. The following Wednesday. Hey, Brianna needs new shoes. She's growing so fast. Can you help? No mention of the previous $200. I'd send the money for Brianna's shoes because the kid needed shoes. That wasn't her fault. Then I'd see Derek post about his new tattoo, professional photos of the work, $300 minimum for that size and detail. The math never worked. His stories never aligned. But pointing it out made me the bad guy. Made me unsupportive. Made me the sister who didn't believe in his dreams. So I stopped pointing it out. Started documenting instead. I wasn't even angry yet, just tired of being the only person in the family with a working memory. Then Dad needed surgery for his knee. Years of construction work had destroyed the cartilage. Insurance covered most of it, but not the deductible, $500 upfront before they'd schedule the procedure. I wrote the check without hesitation. Dad cried when I handed it to him. Called me his rock. That one I didn't resent. Dad spent 40 years building houses in the Texas heat before his body gave out. He'd earned the help. But Derek used it as leverage afterward. Whenever I mentioned money he owed me, someone would bring up Dad's surgery. Family takes care of family, Mom would say, like it was all the same pot of money instead of my personal account being drained month after month. I saved those conversations too. Screenshots of the group chat. Voice memos where Mom would say things like, "You make good money, Stephanie." Derek's still finding his way. By the time I hit 33, my name was attached to 4 things. Derek's truck lease, a store credit card we supposedly shared but only he used, a line of credit for his business inventory that never sold, and a personal loan for equipment he claimed he needed but I'd never actually seen. Meanwhile, I worked nights and weekends. Flooded commercial buildings. Blown transformers. Emergency power outages. I learned which 24-hour diners had the cleanest bathrooms and the best coffee, which gas stations stayed open late and which ones had sketchy parking lots. I also learned about cosigner removal policies in Texas, credit disputes, joint account liability. I'd sit in my truck between calls at 2 a.m., reading legal documents and saving PDFs, bookmarking articles about how to protect yourself from someone else's financial chaos. Not because I was planning to use them. Just because knowledge is free and I had time to kill. Every family gathering, Derek performed. Talked about networking and building his brand while Mom beamed with pride. Showed Brianna how to pose for his Instagram stories while Dad smiled and nodded. Talked over me when I mentioned work because electrical work isn't glamorous. And every time, I added mental notes. How he ordered expensive drinks but forgot his wallet. How he promised Brianna toys next week and then acted like he'd never said it. How he borrowed Mom's car and returned it with an empty tank and new scratches. Small things. Easy to ignore individually. But when you see the pattern, when you document the pattern, it becomes impossible to unsee. Last spring, Derek's business needed an LLC filing fee. He'd forgotten to pay it. State penalties hit. He called me at 11 p.m. while I was driving home from a job in Sugarland, rewiring a restaurant's kitchen after their electrical fire. I need $950 by tomorrow or I lose the business license. Everything I've built, Steph. Gone. I sent the money. Added the transaction to my spreadsheet, the locked note on my phone where I tracked everything. Dates, amounts, purposes, outcomes. Then I looked up the LLC filing myself. Found out the business name was already taken by someone else. The license he was talking about didn't exist. He'd lied about what he needed the money for. Not a huge lie, just enough to make it sound urgent and legitimate. I didn't confront him. Just added it to the file, lied about LLC fee with the date and proof. Brianna was born during this mess. I was at the hospital. Held her when she was 2 hours old while Derek took selfies with his girlfriend. My princess, he captioned the photo. Got 600 likes. The hospital bill got sent to collections 4 months later because he never set up the payment plan. I found out when the collections notice came to my address, he'd listed my apartment as his contact for something and never updated it. I photographed the letter. Added it to the folder. Then I paid the collections bill so it wouldn't hit public records and damage both our credit. Not because I'm nice. Because I needed Derek's credit to stay functional enough for what I didn't know I was planning yet. By Thanksgiving, I had nearly 3 years of documentation. Text messages where Derek promised to pay me back. Screenshots of his Instagram showing expensive purchases the same week he texted me for rent money. Bank statements. Payment confirmations. Voice memos where he'd admitted things he later denied saying. I kept it organized. Backed up 3 ways: cloud storage, external hard drive, email drafts. The folder became routine, like checking your connections before you leave a job site. Automatic. Protective. I didn't know when I'd need it. Just knew eventually I would. Thanksgiving at Mom and Dad's house in Pearland. The usual setup. Turkey, all the sides, too many people crammed into too small a space. Derek arrived 45 minutes late with Brianna and his girlfriend, Kayla. Nobody asked why they were late. Everyone just rearranged to make room. I got there early. Helped Mom prep the turkey. Fixed the garbage disposal that had been acting weird for weeks. Replaced a faulty outlet in the guest bathroom that was sparking. The stuff I always do. The disposal had been making a grinding sound. Mom mentioned it last time we talked, so I brought the parts with me. Crawled under the sink while she prepped vegetables above me. 20 minutes later, running smooth as butter. She thanked me absently, kept chopping. The bathroom outlet was worse than I thought. Scorched inside, loose connection, fire hazard. I replaced the entire receptacle and checked the other outlets in the house while I was at it. Found 2 more that needed replacing. Did those too. Derek breezed in with shopping bags. New clothes for Brianna. I recognized the boutique logo, expensive kids store in the Galleria. New sunglasses for himself, still had the designer tag hanging off them. He kissed Mom on the cheek, handed her a bottle of wine, asked what he'd missed. The bags were from stores that don't have sales. I was washing my hands in the kitchen when he arrived. Mom's whole face lit up like Christmas morning. Dad came in from the living room to say hello. They fussed over Brianna, complimented Kayla's hair, asked about Derek's projects. Nobody asked about my week. I'd mentioned fixing the disposal. Mom nodded vaguely while admiring Brianna's new dress. Dinner was the usual performance. Derek talked about his latest venture, some kind of social media consulting thing. He had a whole presentation on his iPad. Graphs showing projected revenue. Client testimonials that looked suspiciously generic. Mom and Dad ate it up, nodding along like he was presenting at a board meeting. He laid the iPad on the table so everyone could see. Charts and numbers that looked professional if you didn't look too close. Everyone leaned in. Asked questions. He answered with buzzwords and vague explanations that sounded impressive but meant nothing. I ate quietly. Answered questions about work when asked. How's business? Good. Steady. That's nice, honey. Then back to Derek's presentation. Then Brianna got bored. Kids do that. But this kid, I watched her eyes land on my plate. Watched her look at her dad. He was distracted, scrolling through his phone while Mom asked him something. Brianna smiled, reached across the table, grabbed my plate with both hands, and dumped it in my lap. Hot gravy soaked through my jeans. Turkey hit the floor. Mashed potatoes splattered across my shirt. Green bean casserole slid down my leg. The table went silent. Everyone stared. Brianna giggled. Oops. Clean it up yourself. Derek looked up from his phone. Saw the mess. Laughed, not a nervous laugh, a genuine amused laugh. Oh my God, Bri. You're terrible. Not stern. Not apologetic. Entertained. I stood up. Grabbed paper towels from the counter. Started cleaning gravy off my pants. My shirt. The floor. Kids, man, Derek said, still grinning. What are you gonna do? Don't be so sensitive about it, Steph. I kept cleaning. Didn't say a word. The whole table watched me. It's fine, Mom said, her voice nervous. Accidents happen. She's only 6. The kids sat there watching me clean. Not apologizing. Not looking sorry. Just watching with this little smile on her face. Derek scrolled through his phone. Someone made a comment about kids being wild these days. Everyone laughed. The moment passed for them. I finished cleaning. Threw the paper towels in the trash. Went to the bathroom and rinsed gravy out of my jeans with cold water. Stood there in Mom's bathroom, jeans soaked, shirt stained, and something clicked in my brain. The same part of my mind that diagnoses electrical problems, that traces circuits and finds faults, that part locked onto a different kind of issue. I'd been funding Derek's lifestyle for years. Carrying his weight. And he just sat there laughing while his kid humiliated me like I was a joke. Like I was nothing. I walked back out. Sat down in my wet jeans. Finished dinner in silence while Derek kept talking about his plans, his vision, his empire. Nobody mentioned the plate. Nobody apologized. I left right after dessert. Told Mom I had an early call in the morning, which was true. I had a commercial building inspection scheduled for 7 a.m. She hugged me. Drive safe, honey. Derek didn't look up from his phone. I got the emergency call on the drive home. Electrical fire at a small office building in Midtown. Spent 4 hours making sure the place was safe, replacing damaged wiring, checking every circuit. Sat in my truck afterward in the Home Depot parking lot, and that's when Mom's text came through. Tonight was the night I'd use the file I'd been building for 3 years. I pulled out my laptop right there in the parking lot. Started with the bank accounts, downloaded every statement from the past 3 years. Then credit cards. Downloaded statements, payment histories, late fee records. Then public records. Business filings, court documents. All searchable. All public information. I searched Derek's name. Found the LLC for his consulting business, status, administratively dissolved. Annual report not filed for 2 years. State penalties, $1,400 and growing. Found a small claims judgment from his old landlord in Montrose. $3,200 awarded to plaintiff. Still unpaid. Collection agency now involved. Found parking tickets, 15 of them, all from downtown Houston. $2,100 with late fees. Some had turned into warrants. Took screenshots of everything. Derek wasn't just bad with money. He was ignoring every official obligation while maintaining this image of success on social media. I pulled up cosigner removal policies for Texas. Read them carefully. Prepared documents. Then I researched credit disputes, fraud alerts, joint account separations. Looked at Derek's Instagram. Public profile. Recent posts about entrepreneurship and building generational wealth. Photos showed new clothes, nice restaurants, the Durango he claimed was for business purposes. I screenshot posts from the last 6 months, then cross-referenced the post dates with my bank statements. Photo of Derek at some upscale brunch spot in Rice Village. Caption about success and grinding. Date, March 18th. My bank statement from March 15th, $600 transfer to Derek. Memo, emergency rent help. Photo of new sneakers, limited edition Jordans. Caption about treating yourself when you work hard. Date, April 3rd. My statement from March 30th, $400 transfer to Derek. Memo, truck payment. Every flex on Instagram was funded by my money. Every post about his hustle was paid for with my credit. I made a document. His posts on the left side. My statements on the right. Let the dates tell the story. At 1:30 a.m., I closed the laptop. My coffee had gone cold hours ago. The parking lot was empty except for one other work truck. I'd spent 3 hours building a case. Not for court. For destruction. I typed out my response to Mom. Fine with me. I'm removing my name from every loan. You have 48 hours. Sent it. The phone exploded. Texts, calls, voicemails. I silenced everything. Climbed into the back of my truck where I keep emergency blankets and a pillow for nights when I'm too tired to drive home. Set an alarm for 6:30 a.m. Slept better than I had in months. Banks open at 9 a.m. I walked into the Wells Fargo branch at 8:50 wearing clean work pants and my company polo shirt. Brought my laptop. Brought my folder. Brought 3 years of documentation. The branch was one of those newer buildings, all glass and modern furniture. I signed in at the reception desk, told them I needed to speak with someone about multiple accounts. The receptionist looked at her computer screen, made a phone call, told me to wait. A loan officer named Patricia called me back to her office. She had short grey hair and reading glasses on a chain around her neck. Looked like she'd seen every family disaster twice and wasn't impressed by any of them anymore. What can I help you with today? I need to remove myself from several accounts. I have documentation. I opened my laptop. Showed her everything I'd been documenting. Her eyebrows went up slightly. This is extremely organized. Then she pulled up my accounts in the system. We went through them one by one. The truck lease. I could request removal, but Derek would need to refinance on his own or find a new co-signer. Given his credit and income, that wasn't happening. Patricia pulled up Derek's credit report. She could see it because I was on the accounts. Score in the low 500s. Multiple late payments across different accounts. High credit utilization. Collections activity. A pattern of financial irresponsibility so clear even a stranger could see it in 30 seconds. His profile is going to make refinancing very difficult, Patricia said carefully, professionally. What happens if he can't qualify? The vehicle would be subject to repossession. He'd have 45 days to refinance or return it. And my liability after that. Once we process your co-signer removal request, you're no longer responsible for future payments. The account stays on your credit report until it's paid off or resolved, but future missed payments won't affect your score. I signed the form. The store credit card, I could close it immediately and remove my name once the balance hit zero. Patricia checked the balance. Current charges. Recent activity. Purchases at restaurants, retail stores, online shopping. Nothing that looked like actual business expenses. Close it now, I said. I'll pay off the balance today. Patricia blinked. The current balance is $7,300. I know. I've been tracking every charge. I'd been saving money I should have spent on upgrading my equipment or taking an actual vacation. Instead, I'd stockpiled it for this exact moment. I authorized the payment. Watched my savings account drop. Felt nothing but relief. Account closed to new charges. Your name will be removed within 30 days once the payment processes. The line of credit, I could revoke my guarantee with written notice. The account would freeze while they reviewed Derek's ability to maintain it on his own. Patricia went through the terms. The credit line was opened for business purposes. Required proof of revenue, tax returns, bank statements showing business income. Do you know if the primary account holder has these documents? No idea. Not my problem anymore. What happens if he can't provide them? The account closes and the full balance becomes due immediately. 15 days from notification. I signed the form. Send the notification today. Patricia printed copies of every form. Stapled them. Slid them across the desk in a folder. You're very thorough, she said. Most people don't document things like this. Most people trust their family. I stood up. Shook her hand. Professional and clean. I left at 11:45. Checked my phone in the truck. 52 messages. Mom, what have you done? Derek, the truck. You're taking my truck. Are you serious right now? More from Derek. Brianna needs that vehicle. I need it for work. You can't do this. I watched the progression. Rage to panic to begging. Textbook. I pulled up my prepared document, Derek's Instagram posts next to my bank statements. Added a title, Image versus Reality, how success was actually funded. Didn't send it yet. That came later. First, I needed to see the damage in person. I drove to Mom and Dad's house. Needed to see their faces. Needed them to understand this wasn't impulsive. This was calculated. Mom opened the door before I could knock. Her face was red, eyes swollen from crying. Dad stood behind her in the hallway. Derek paced by the couch, phone clutched in his hand. Brianna played with dolls in the corner, oblivious to the chaos. "Get in here." Mom's voice was sharp. The living room felt smaller than usual. TV off. Everyone positioned like they were ready for war. "Explain yourself," Mom said. I set my laptop bag down. Stayed standing. Kept my keys in my pocket in case I needed to leave fast. I removed my name from Derek's debts. All of them. "Why?" Dad's voice was quieter, almost curious. "Because I'm done funding his image while getting treated like a joke." Derek laughed, sharp and bitter. "Over some Thanksgiving drama? You're that petty." "Not about the mashed potatoes," I said. "About respect. About years of co-signing and covering and cleaning up messes while being treated like an ATM machine with no feelings." Mom stepped closer. "Family helps each other, Stephanie." "I did help. I helped until helping became enabling. There's a difference." "Enabling?" Derek's voice cracked. "I was building something. Taking risks. You wouldn't understand because you just fix wires for a living." The insult hung there in the air. Dad shifted uncomfortably. Looked at Derek, then at me. Didn't say anything, but I saw his expression change. "How much do you think you owe me?" I asked Derek directly. "I don't know. Some. I'll pay you back eventually." $41,200. The room went dead silent. You could hear the air conditioner kick on in the other room. "I documented everything," I continued. 3 years of records. Bank statements. Screenshots. Text messages where you promised to pay me back. Derek's face changed. The confident mask cracked. "You kept records? Like some kind of psycho?" "Obviously. Why wouldn't I track where my money was going?" Mom looked confused. "That much? That can't be right." "That much. Plus the credit damage. Plus the stress. Plus the midnight calls from banks because he missed payments." I pulled out my phone. Showed them a summary. A simple list. Each debt. Each date. Each broken promise. Car payment coverage, $14,200 over 30 months. Credit card charges, $7,300. Emergency transfers, $12,600. Business credit line, $8,900. Dad surgery, $6,500. This one I didn't regret, but it was relevant to the total. Minus the surgery, $42,000 given to Derek. "This is crazy," Derek said, but his voice was weak now. "It's documented. Every single claim has proof." Dad sat down heavily on the couch. Put his head in his hands. "Here's what happens next," I said, keeping my voice matter-of-fact. "The truck needs refinancing in 45 days. Derek's credit won't qualify. He either pays it off, finds someone else to co-sign, or surrenders it to the dealership." "But I need that truck," Derek said. His voice actually shook. "Should have made the payments then." "The line of credit is frozen," I continued. "Balance due in 15 days. That's $8,900. I don't have that kind of cash. Not my problem anymore." I opened my laptop. Showed them the document I'd made. Derek's Instagram posts on the left. My bank statements on the right. Dates perfectly aligned. "Every flex you posted was paid for with my money," I said. "You didn't build anything, Derek. You borrowed my foundation and called it your empire." Mom stared at the screen. Put her hand over her mouth. I showed them more. The expired business license. The unpaid court judgment. The parking tickets with warrants attached. The state compliance violations. "You're not just bad with money," I said. "You're ignoring legal obligations while pretending everything's fine. In some states, that's fraud." "You wouldn't," Derek whispered. "I already did. Filed the forms this morning. The clock's running." Nobody moved. The air in the room felt thick. "But here's the interesting part," I said. I pulled out a printed list. "These are people you claim to network with. Business contacts from your Instagram posts. I found their companies. Found their emails." Derek went pale. "Don't. You posted about meetings with investors, partnership discussions, consulting contracts. I have dates. Want to bet those people have records of actual meetings? Or is it all just performance for Instagram? You wouldn't, he said again. I also found your old landlord's contact info, the one who sued you, and the supplier you never paid for that inventory sitting in your storage unit, and your previous business partner from that failed venture in 2022. I let that sink in. Let him imagine those conversations. I'm not contacting them, I said, unless you force me to. Mom's voice came out shaky. What does that mean? It means if this stays quiet, it stays contained. Derek loses his financial safety net, but keeps his reputation. The truck goes back. The credit tanks. That's between him and the banks. I looked directly at Derek. But if you come after me, if you try to spin some story about how I'm the villain, if you start spreading lies about abandoning family, then I send this documentation everywhere. Every contact. Every person you've name-dropped. Everyone gets to see the real numbers. That's blackmail, Derek said weakly. No. Blackmail requires demanding something. I'm not demanding anything. I'm just protecting my reputation from whatever story you're planning to tell. Long silence. Just the sound of the AC running and Brianna playing with her dolls in the corner. Here's the deal, I said. I'm out completely. My name, my money, my liability. You want to blame me? Fine. But if I hear my name getting dragged through family gossip or social media, everyone sees the receipts. I closed the laptop. Picked up my bag. 45 days for the truck. 15 for the credit line. Better start making calls. I walked toward the door. Mom's voice stopped me. If you leave now, don't bother coming back. I turned around. Looked at her. You already told me we're cut off. I'm just honoring your request. I walked out. Closed the door behind me. Stood on the porch for a moment. Heard the yelling start inside. Derek's voice, high and panicked. Mom. Retry. ED. Continue. Crying. Dad's low rumble trying to calm everyone down. Got in my truck. Started the engine. Drove away while my phone lit up with notifications I ignored. Pulled into a Whataburger parking lot 2 miles away and just sat there for 20 minutes, hands shaking from the adrenaline dump. I'd just blown up my family. And I felt nothing but relief. I blocked Derek's number after 90 calls in 2 days. Let Mom and Dad's messages pile up unread. Changed all my passwords. Enabled 2-factor authentication on every account. Put fraud alerts on my credit reports. Added security freezes. Built a wall. Took some local jobs over the next week. Kept myself busy. Rewiring old houses, upgrading panels, installing smart home systems. The kind of straightforward work that lets your mind process while your hands stay occupied. The work became therapy in a way. I took a job upgrading the electrical system in a rental duplex in the East End. The tenant was a single mom with 3 kids. She apologized for the mess, toys everywhere, laundry piled on the couch. I told her not to worry about it. Fixed the outdated panel. Replaced aluminum wiring with copper. Brought everything up to code. When I handed her the invoice, she counted out cash carefully. Asked if she could pay half now and half in 2 weeks when she got paid again. Don't worry about it, I said. Charged her cost of parts only, no labor. You've got kids to feed. She teared up. Hugged me. Thanked me 3 times. I left feeling lighter than I had in weeks. The notifications kept coming. I'd muted the family group chat but checked it once a day just to track the damage. Day 3, Mom posted something on Facebook about loyalty and family betrayal. Vague enough to get sympathy without details. Her friends commented supportive messages. Prayer hands emojis. Thinking of you comments. Mom responded with sad face emojis and grateful replies. Building her narrative. I watched the performance from a distance. Didn't engage. Day 5, Derek posted on Instagram. Long caption about betrayal and fake people. Comments full of support from people who didn't know the real story. Heart emojis. You got this, bro. Real ones know your worth. I screenshot it. Added it to my folder. His caption talked about learning who your real family is. About people showing their true colors when you need them most. About staying strong for his daughter. The comments ate it up. People offering to help. People sharing their own stories of family betrayal. I checked the profiles of the people commenting. Most were casual acquaintances. Instagram followers. Not a single person who actually knew the full situation. Just an audience for his performance. Day 7. Dad texted from Derek's phone. The bank called. They're taking the truck back. Can you please help? I replied, he has 45 days to refinance. That's bank policy, not my decision. No response. Day 9. Mom called from a number I didn't recognize. Left a voicemail. Stephanie, please. He's going to lose everything. This is your brother. Your family. Deleted it without finishing. Day 11. Derek showed up at a job site. I was installing exterior lighting at a new restaurant in Midtown. Saw his Durango pull up through the window. My stomach dropped, but I kept working. Finished the connection I was making. Tested the circuit. Packed up my tools slowly. He was waiting by my truck when I came out. We need to talk. No, we don't. 5 minutes. Please. You're on private property. I'm working. Leave. He flinched. Looked around at the parking lot like he was suddenly aware other people might be watching. Just undo it, he said. Please. I'll sign anything. Payment plan, contract, whatever you want. Can't undo it. Papers are filed with the bank. The truck's gone in 5 weeks. Then you have 5 weeks to fix this. How? Your credit's destroyed. Nobody's going to co-sign for you now. I looked at him. Really looked at him. Saw the bags under his eyes. The wrinkled shirt he'd probably slept in. The way his hands shook slightly. Felt nothing. Brianna didn't mean anything by it, he said quietly. At Thanksgiving. She's just a kid. Brianna did what kids do. Someone taught her I was a joke. Someone taught her it was funny to disrespect me. It was just dinner. It wasn't about dinner, I said. It was about years of being treated like an ATM. Years of broken promises. Years of watching you post about success while I covered your rent. I walked to my truck. He grabbed my arm. I stopped. Let go. He did. Immediately. You really hate me, he said. I don't hate you. I don't trust you. And I'm not funding someone I don't trust anymore. I got in my truck. Started the engine. He stood there in the parking lot, and I watched him get smaller in my rearview mirror as I drove away. 3 days later, Dad texted. Just him. Can we meet? Coffee, just you and me. I thought about it for an hour, then agreed. He was already at the coffee shop when I arrived, a little place in Bellaria we used to go to when I was in high school. He was sitting in a corner booth with a black coffee in front of him. Looked tired. Older than I remembered. I slid in across from him. Ordered coffee when the waitress came by. We sat in silence for a minute. Dad stirred sugar into his coffee even though he drinks it black. You built a case, he finally said. I documented reality. Seems excessive. It's insurance. In case Derek rewrites history. Dad nodded slowly. Stared out the window at the parking lot. She's calling you heartless, he said quietly. Your mother. I know. Says you've changed. I stopped pretending. More silence. Dad kept stirring his coffee. I knew, he said finally. Quietly. I knew he was using you. Knew the payments weren't getting made. Knew he wouldn't pay you back. I looked up. Why didn't you say anything? Because your mother loves him. And I love your mother more than I love being right. The honesty hit harder than anger would have. I sat back against the booth. He's going to lose the truck, Dad said. Maybe his apartment too. Kayla already left him, moved back with her parents. I know. You're really not going to help him. I'm really not. Dad looked out the window again. Watched a work truck pull into the gas station across the street. Driver got out, started pumping gas, checked his phone while he waited. You did the right thing, Dad said. Didn't look at me when he said it. Don't tell your mother I said that. Something loosened in my chest. Some knot I didn't know was there. We talked about other things after that. Work. My truck. Normal stuff. The kind of conversation we hadn't had in years because Derek's drama always took center stage. He told me about a project he was working on in the garage, building a workbench. Asked if I had any scrap wood or wire he could use. I'll check my storage unit, I said. Drop some by when Mom's at work. She'll cool off eventually, he said. Give her time. Maybe. When we left, he hugged me in the parking lot. Quick and tight. Take care of yourself, kid. You too, Dad. Got a text 2 days later from a number I didn't recognize. This is Trevor, Derek's old business partner. Heard you might have info about unpaid inventory. I stared at it. Wondered how he got my number. Then realized Derek probably listed me as a business contact somewhere without asking. Sent him photos of the inventory Derek had stored in his garage. Boxes and boxes of stuff that never sold. Gave him the supplier's contact information. Thanks, he replied. He owes me $5,200. Good to know I'm not alone. You're definitely not. For weeks passed. Mom texted once. They took the truck. Derek had to surrender it. He's devastated. I read it. Felt tired relief wash over me. Replied, that's between him and the bank. No response. Week 6, the line of credit went to collections. Derek couldn't pay the balance. They froze the account and started legal proceedings. I wasn't liable anymore. My documentation protected me. Collections agency sent me a letter anyway. I sent them copies of my cosigner removal forms with processing dates. Case closed on my end within a week. Derek tried to add me to a new credit application. Got an alert from my credit monitoring service. Disputed it immediately. Application denied. He tried 2 more times over the next month. Disputed both. Added fraud notes to my file. The attempts stopped. November brought more desperate attempts. Derek created new social media accounts trying to contact me. Blocked them all. Tried emailing. Filtered to spam. Showed up at another job site. Had the property owner call the police. They escorted him off. The desperation was obvious now. His carefully constructed image was cracking. People started asking questions. The truth spread without me having to say anything. Through Dad, I heard Derek was telling people I'd sabotaged him. That I was jealous of his success. That I'd pulled my support out of pure spite. Some people believed him. Most did the math. When someone loses their truck, their apartment, and their girlfriend all in the same month, people start wondering what the real story is. Truth doesn't need help spreading. It just needs time. By Christmas, the final piece fell. The state penalties for the dissolved LLC caught up. Business license permanently revoked. Any future business ventures would require settling all old debts first. He couldn't pay. Asked Mom and Dad for help. Dad said no. First time ever. Derek sent one final message. Not to me, to Dad. Dad forwarded it to me. I'll never forgive Riley. She destroyed everything I built. I read it. Smiled slightly. Deleted it. Because that's what revenge looks like when it's disguised as consequences. You don't need forgiveness from people who wronged you. You just need to stop carrying their weight. My credit score went up 52 points in 3 months. The joint accounts disappeared from my reports. The co-signed debts vanished. My financial profile cleaned up fast once Derek's mess wasn't attached to it anymore. Started looking at houses. Real houses, not apartments. Places with garages for my work truck. Neighborhoods where I wouldn't hear sirens every night. Started thinking about building equity instead of paying rent to someone else. Scheduled meetings with a mortgage broker in January. Looked at my finances properly for the first time in years. Without Derek's debts dragging everything down, I actually qualified for good rates. The broker pulled my credit, nodded approvingly, started showing me options. Started driving through neighborhoods on weekends. Looking at properties. Nothing fancy, just a place with a garage, maybe a small yard, room for my tools and equipment. A place I could actually call mine. Found a place in March. Small brick house in the Heights area, 3 bedrooms, detached 2-car garage. Needed some work, outdated electrical I could fix myself, old plumbing, cosmetic stuff. But solid bones. Good foundation. Made an offer. Closed in 7 weeks. Moving day was quiet. Just me and my stuff. Packed my truck, made 4 trips from my apartment. Set up my tools in the garage. Hung my master electrician license on the wall. First night in my own house, I ordered pizza. Sat on the floor because I hadn't bought furniture yet. Ate in silence while the sun set through the front windows. Felt peace I hadn't experienced in years. Derek's Instagram eventually came back online. Different tone now. Humble posts about learning from mistakes and starting over. Comments were supportive but fewer. The performance had lost most of its audience. People had moved on to other stories. I didn't follow him. Didn't need to. Heard updates through Dad when we met for coffee every few weeks. Those meetings became regular, every other Saturday morning. Just Dad and me. No drama. No crisis. Just coffee and conversation. Brianna asked about me sometimes. Dad said. Wanted to know where Aunt Stephanie went. I'd send gifts for her birthday and Christmas. Cards with $20 bills tucked inside. Little things that said, I'm still here when you're old enough to understand what really happened. That's where things stand now. 6 months after that Thanksgiving dinner. 6 months after a plate of mashed potatoes became the breaking point. 6 months after I stopped being the family safety net and became the family villain instead. And you know what? I sleep better now than I have in 3 years. My credit's clean. My savings account is growing. I own a house. I choose my jobs instead of taking everything that comes my way because I need the money to cover someone else's mess. The best revenge isn't some dramatic confrontation or public humiliation. It's building a life so solid that the people who took advantage of you can't touch it anymore. It's watching them face the natural consequences of their choices while you thrive in the space their chaos used to occupy. Derek's still out there somewhere, probably working on his next venture, his next hustle, his next story about how he's building something. Maybe he learned something. Probably not. But that's not my problem anymore. I fixed pipes and wires for a living. Turns out I'm pretty good at fixing my life too. You just have to be willing to cut the faulty connections and rebuild from a solid foundation. And yeah, my family thinks I'm heartless, cold, unforgiving. But they also know now that I keep receipts. That I document everything. That you can only push someone so far before they stop bending and start building walls instead. Some bridges are supposed to burn. Some relationships are supposed to end. Sometimes the healthiest thing you can do is walk away from people who see you as a resource instead of a person. I'm Stephanie. I'm 35 years old. I'm a master electrician. I own my own house. And I don't fund other people's fantasies anymore. That's my story. That's how a plate of mashed potatoes and a 6-year-old's cruelty became the catalyst for taking my life back. How a family that called me their rock learned what happens when the rock stops holding up a structure that was never stable to begin with. Was it worth it? Every single documented dollar. Every burned bridge. Every silent night in my own house with no one asking me for money. Yeah, it was worth it.